Hello again. My name's Kathy Fisher. I am from Accelerate Educational Ministries and I'm here to bring you part 2 of your certificates and moderation training for Accelerate Christian Homeschooling. So in part 2 we're going to talk about moderation. Let's see what moderation is all about. So moderation is the process of evaluating a sample of PACE tests to ensure the supervisor accurately scores tests to maintain consistent, reliable and equitable assessment standards and practices by following the ACE procedures. So what does that all mean? Well, let's look at why we do moderation, because I think that explains it really clearly. Moderation provides the necessary quality assurance that students' academic achievement is of the highest standard of reliability and credibility. It's really important that when your student receives their certificate, and if they want to go on to higher education, that we can say with confidence that this certificate is both reliable and credible, that your student has done the work, that we have checked that your student has done the work, and that we have looked at how the work is assessed or scored. So moderation processes are verifiable and maintain common standards of achievement at a regional level. It is to check that the original marker is both correct and consistent. It is not about checking the student. That's your job as the educator. It's about ensuring that those who score the tests are consistent and are using the correct standardized procedures. Let me give you a quick example. If one parent is marking Algebra 1, for example, and the student has got all the work incorrect up to the very last part and has written the wrong answer, some parents would score that as a 0. The answer is wrong, therefore the question is wrong. But in algebra, you're looking at sometimes 4 or 5 marks for a single question. Now, if the student has got half of the question right, they need to get half of the marks. So you can see how that can vary between parents, how it can vary between schools even. So what we're doing at moderation is we're looking to see that there is a consistent level right across our certificates. So when your student goes to university or presents their certificate at a tertiary institution, that institution knows that there is a moderated mark that is coming to them, and that it has been checked and it is consistent. So if one student scores 95 and another student scores 95, they should both have a fairly consistent standard of work. So what is required for moderation? Well, for years 9 and 10 and the rest of the region, and in New Zealand for years 10 and 11 students, all Algebra 1 and English 1, that's PACES 1097 to 1108, are required for moderation. Now remember, you do not send the whole PACE, you only send the PACE test. For years 11 and 12 and New Zealand year 12 to 13 students, all PACE tests are required. Anything that is going on that year 12 or year 13 or level 3 certificate must be moderated. This is part of the agreement that we have with Universities New Zealand, part of the agreement we have with NOAS in Papua New Guinea, part of the agreement that we have with QTAC and the various other TACs in Australia for entry into university. So for all students that are sending tests, the original test papers must be submitted. Only hard copies are accepted, no photocopies, and e-PACEs are not accepted. When you're sending in your tests, particularly for math or science, if there are working pages where the student has done working out for mathematical things, they should be submitted with the PACE tests, because often, as we've just said, you can give the student part marks even if they did not get the answer 100% correct. So when is moderation required? The due dates for moderation are 4 times per year, so basically 1 each term. This enables timely feedback. I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. All moderation is to be mailed in for these due dates only. Accelerate Christian Homeschooling include the moderation due dates for different regions in their monthly newsletters. Please make sure that you comply with these and that you send your tests in at the right time. Do not, notice it's in red and it's big, do not wait until the student has completed the whole course before sending in the tests. In other words, do not wait if they've started Algebra 1 and they're on PACE 1097 and they've done PACE 1097, 98 and 99 in one term and it's time for moderation. You send those 3 tests in for that moderation. You don't keep them until the student has finished algebra. The student should not have access to the test once they've completed it, apart from the parent talking to the student about the test. The test should be kept away, so there is no reason that the students need those tests once they've completed them. Please note that if we get whole courses that are done outside of the moderation period that is current, that we will be charging a service fee of $25. That's $25 AUD for those extra courses, because it means extra work for our moderators. The next do not is, do not keep PACE tests, only submitting them when the student has finished everything and is applying for a certificate. Now, there's a whole number of problems with this, and this is where I'm going to talk to you about feedback in a moment, but don't do it because it can affect their eligibility for a certificate, and at the very least, it will delay them receiving their certificate. Okay, so why do we have due dates 4 times a year? Well, we've said at the very start, to enable timely feedback. Now, if we look at your Algebra 1 PACEs and you sent 97, 98, 99, and we find that there is an issue with those PACEs, when the moderator scores those PACEs, they come up with significantly different totals or results than the parent has. We call that a deviation, and there are big issues with that. Now, if we can go back to you after 2 or 3 PACEs and say, there's an issue with the marking, this is what's happening, these are the deviations, then you can fix that before the student finishes the course. Instead of the student finishing the course, getting to the end of everything, and then all of a sudden perhaps they've failed tests and they have to resit a test. That can be a really big problem. So to try and help you with this, we have what we call a moderation benchmark, and this document is available from Accelerate Homeschool Support Services team, and it lists the most common mistakes and errors that supervisors make. Now, often you make an error and it's something that you don't know or don't understand, and that's fine. But sometimes there are errors that we really need to pick up because it's going to affect whether the student has passed or failed the tests. Please make sure that you get this document and read it carefully. For your PACE tests, please make sure that your child's first name and last name are written clearly. You might only have one child and, you know, John might be your child and you write John on the PACE test. But when it comes to us, we might have 500 PACE tests with 30 boys with the name John. So if anything happens and your test gets separated from your file, then we have no idea who John is and where he belongs. So please put your first name and last name written clearly on the front of the test. The name must match the name on their certificate pathway. So if you have young John there and his name is Jonathan, please put Jonathan on the front of the PACE test. Sometimes parents use nicknames for children or use their second name, but their pathway is registered in their first name. We have no idea what is going on when we get those tests. Please make sure that the date the test was taken is written clearly on the front of the PACE test. Please make sure that working pages from math or science are included with the test. Please make sure that your child's writing is readable. Anything that we cannot read will be marked incorrect. I'll say that again. Anything that we cannot read will be marked incorrect, and this will lead to deviations on your moderation. You need to print the PACE test report page from the Accelerate Christian Homeschool website and list the PACE tests and scores for each batch of tests you send in for each moderation due date. This tells us which tests are supposed to be in that envelope, and the homeschool team can pick it up if there's a test missing, and it just makes it far easier for us to find tests if they actually do get separated. So if you can help by making sure those things happen, then that helps us with moderation. Okay, problems. Nobody likes problems. If there are any deviations or differences between the supervisor or your marks and the moderator's marks for the same test, you will receive a notice from the Homeschool Support Services team letting you know of any issues that were found during moderation. Now, this is just an advisory normally that says these are the things that were found, just make sure that they don't happen again. Okay, occasionally when there are large deviations, we may require that the supervisor's marks are altered to reflect the marking of the moderator. So for example, if the student got 100% on their test, but when we moderate, we find that in actual fact, the student only got 90%, then we would ask that result is changed in the Accelerate Christian Homeschool records, and they would advise you as the parent that that change has been made. Continued large deviations from the same family after intervention from the homeschool support team may result in that family no longer being eligible to receive an ACE certificate. Now, I don't want you to panic about this. Mostly, this does not happen. In fact, I've been here a long time and I have never seen it happen. What we prefer to do as much as possible is to work with the family. The homeschool team works with the family to make sure that what is required for those tests is being done correctly. And we've never had a really big problem with that we haven't been able to resolve. But if the family does not want to work alongside us to make sure that things are done in the right way, then unfortunately we would not be able to issue a certificate because we would not be able to moderate their work satisfactorily. Okay, feedback. No news is good news. If you send in your moderation, your PACE tests for moderation, and you don't hear anything back, wonderful. No news is good news. The moderators will only contact the homeschool services team if there are any issues found with your child's tests. If there are no issues, there's no contact, and you just keep on going because you're doing what is right. I hope this has helped you to understand moderation, what it is and why we do it, and also that you can help us by doing a few simple things to make sure that the PACE tests are easily identifiable and readable. Thank you.